And what I always say is that if the natural treatment doesn't work, you've lost nothing, because it doesn't have a detrimental effect on the body. So what do you need to start a health retreat? Well, I guess you need a house and you need some rooms in the house. Our retreat is quite big, but we didn't start really big. So when we started, I think our first program, it was one guest. So what did we do for advertising? Well, we started our first health retreat 24 years ago. And in Australia, there's something called Yellow Pages in the phone book. And the Yellow Pages is where all the businesses are. Well, we don't have that now. What we have is Google. Is that right? And so a lot of people, if they want to go to a health retreat, they Google. They Google health retreats. Now you pay a lot of money to be first page. And whether your budget allows that, so that's something that you can investigate. What we also find is we're to the stage now where it's word of mouth. And of course my lectures are on the YouTube, so that's also advertising. And the other thing to be mindful of is that never think for a moment that you're taking the place of a doctor or you're trying to be a doctor. You're just a health retreat where people come for a week and you teach them how to look after their bodies. Only a doctor can diagnose, and so you don't have to diagnose. If someone has a problem and they've got sore joints, you don't have to diagnose and say, well, this must be gout or this must be arthritis. It's, well, let's try this and see if it helps. And remember, you've got your guide, which is those 8 laws of health. So when Michael and I were we're first married, we're at Living Valley Springs, where it was quite a big health retreat, where they average 20 guests every week. And we had not long married. And he said to me, I'd like to start my own health retreat. And I thought, oh, and I didn't think much more about it. And time went on and I just let it lie. And then something happened that changed things a little bit. It was about 6 months later and Michael rang me and he said, Barbara, could you come down and consult with a lady and man who have just come 2 hours to see the naturopath and he's double booked. And they're not happy. They're not happy at all. He said, I'm asking you because I was wondering what to do. And he said, your daughter Julia, who's 14, when she saw the dilemma, she said, Mum can do it. And you probably know most children think Mum can do anything. Well, that's probably under the age of 17. After that, it might change. And I saw the dilemma and I was very hesitant because up until now I had given a few health meetings, but I really saw that I was someone that just helped other mothers. I said, okay. And I prayed and said, Father in heaven, help. What do I do? But you know what I had? I had these. So I sat in the office and this couple sat in front of me and the lady was probably in her late 50s and she had cancer. She had a tumour in her lungs. So I had a piece of paper in front of me, so I just went through the laws. And I asked her about air she breathes, the house she lives in, and the importance of her breathing only the freshest of air because of what's happening in her lungs. I talked about putting the area in the sunshine every day. I asked her if she was drinking coffee or any of the stimulants. So can you see what I did? That's all I did. And if she was going to bed late, I had a sheet where I wrote down my suggestions. And I talked about the healing happening at twice a rate while she sleeps. I talked about exercise and I asked her what she could do, and I adjusted it according to that. So this is what I did. And I also went into the poultices like castor oil, where she could put the castor oil compress on. And often in that area, a sports bra, cotton sports bra, is perfect for holding a compress in place. So I guess we were together for about an hour. The first half hour was me taking information, the second was advice. And then I gave them the piece of paper where I'd written the advice, and they thanked me very, very much. And then I went home and put my Queen of the Household duty clothes back on and went back to my washing and cleaning and all that I do. When Michael came home that night, he said, "What did you do?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "That couple was so happy, they paid the top amount for the consultation and they've booked into our next program and they want you there." I didn't think I'd done anything. I thought, what did I do? Can you see what we've got? This is a heaven-appointed plan. So that's the best place to start. And I think everyone's got their questionnaire, is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the questionnaire is great. And if you go through that questionnaire, you'll see very clearly that you're basically going through the 8 laws of health. You see that? So I did not have that when I did this consultation. And I know why God did that. Because 6 months later, my husband was asked to start a health retreat down in Melbourne. So this is 1998. And he was very excited. Remember what he'd said to me almost 8 months before? He wanted to start his own health retreat. And I just thought, oh. And so we travelled all the way down. So that's a long way. That's probably about if you do it in one bit, it's probably a 20-hour drive. But we did it in a few bits. We visited places and friends on the way. And then we got to this facility. It was a very nice facility, and it was a non-profit organisation. And the board had asked Michael to start the retreat because they'd seen what he'd done at Living Valley Springs. It was running so well. And so we came down, and as I said, he put an ad in the yellow pages that we were a health retreat. And what did we do for staff? Well, the retreat, praise God, the beds had linen. So there was linen there, and there was a kitchen there with crockery. I think the facility had been used to run training schools for medical missionaries a couple of times a year, but they wanted it to start as a health retreat. So I said to Michael, "What are we going to do for staff?" He said, "Well, my daughter Julie was 15 and she was a very good cook. She'd been cooking since she was about 13, so she's the cook. My daughter Jessica was 17. She'd been working as a massage therapist at Living Valley Springs since she was 15. See, when they're homeschooled, they go into the workforce early. And his daughter, who was 13 at the time, she was a very good typist. She loved typing, and she'd done a few online courses, you know. So she was his secretary at the age of 13. And then we had 3 boys who were 11, 12 and 14, and they were the gardeners. So we had a team, and I said, "But who will be the health director?" He said, "You." I said, no. I'm just a mother, and I just help other mothers." He said, "No, you'll be good," and he walked out of the room. So that was it. And I know that all God's biddings are his enablings. And I was always very shy and very quiet, but I certainly have a desire to help people, which is what I had been doing, just one-to-one or little bit by little up to there. And so that's how I became the health director.